Holy fuck. Um, damn, that's uh, Kim. That is exactly why when we first met a year ago, why I bought like all of your books like within a day off Amazon. Damn. Before I start, I just want to give a big shout out to everyone who read this evening. Kev, as soon as things are over, yeah, we're definitely getting those tats. Gabriel, I need to buy your books, man. I need to buy, the oddities of Saturday Night. What I've heard you read from that is fucking amazing. And Kim, I need your book when it's out. Your next one. I already have everything you have so far. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. It means the absolute world to me. We are all here to celebrate the release of this right here, Love Letters from the Underground, which is my third book out with Spartan Press, and book I'll be primarily reading from tonight. But before I start the first poem, I'm going to do a small introduction. I'm going to be quoting the words from the downtrodden, the patron saint of the downtrodden, Tom Waits, because it kind of ties in with this first poem. There's a big black town. It's a place I found. There's a world going on underground, which is the title of this first poem. No one wants the crown till the last kings fell down. Some were slain, some took matters into their own hands. But ashes, ashes, you know the rest. Nowadays, everyone's driving to be just famous enough to get a free drink. Devil's advocates make a hell of an argument when good friends got their backs turned. Desperate times call for desperate people. Green shirts still in the drawer. Romanticism, a novel concept. Old times become irrelevant, but still held dear. It was the last light we held. Are you influenced by them? Well, then I guess you're allowed to be here. Your shirt is your allegiance. Be careful what your leaders do, because the actions of strangers can take you down with them. The boys got a new name, and it's more ridiculous than the last. And no one took them serious until the violence began, but I guess that's history for you. Political avoidance when trying to get a good buzz. Hummers on the sidewalk because money and endorphins are all you got going. Date rape punk band, older than the rest of the crowd. It's all just rumors, man. It's all just rumors. Gaslighting for their own good is what was said so someone could sleep tonight. It was so much fun until the leeches came in. Nothing stays pure for too long. Idols fall by the wayside for fascism. Lead singers raise arms in allegiance. The rebels are outdated, so they got nothing to lose. So many want to join the party, but they were not invited. It turned out to be a bus when the Red Death showed up. Teeth filed down to cut through and to be remembered. Life's more interesting when you find the deep cuts. Sex positive meets negative ends through a new coat of paint. In time, you find the best moments were smoking cigarettes outside because you needed to hear yourself think. And you accidentally said the right thing at the right time. Everyone leaves when it gets too mainstream or too old to justify to yourself why you're there. Some may send word down the road to thank you for the good times. It's the first one. And the next poem that I'll be reading is a little tribute to a friend of mine who's out in San Francisco. Anybody who has ever read at the Cafe International open mic out in San Francisco knows the gentleman of which I'm going to be referring to. It's a fabulous open mic out there run by this one person who, the only way to really describe him is that he was literally someone born out of time, a gentleman by the name of Clyde Always. And this poem is called Troubadour. One-man band poet laureate of free life at Hayton Fillmore, unicycle juggler, ukulele player. He ain't no ordinary carnival barker. He is the bard of the lower hate, loves the low life, loves the high lives, loves the jive life, loves the bright lives. Telling tales of Melanie Bell in the story salon, living by the five. Yes, Cottom 5 basic rules for success: to have fun on planet Earth, be humble, be reverent, be inspired, walk with purpose, and most importantly, whatever the fuck it is you decide to do in this world, try to be happy. They say he's a rabbit man. They say he knows the origin of the gods. They say he's possessed by a spirit that robbed the Gold Dust Trio at the Battle of the Bight and fixed the ponies at the 1923 Kentucky Derby by getting everyone liquored up on mint juleps and insisting on another round of my old Kentucky home. Enigmatic friend to all, a 21st century Robin Goodfellow, a modern day myth hiding in plain sight, another analog soul in a digital world. Thank you. And, so a lot of these poems I'm going to be reading, like there were a few times that I just went on tour across America, and one place I kept on going to was San Francisco because there's something about that city that just knows my soul very well. And the weird thing, there's a little bit of story to the next poem I'll be reading, which is called That Deadhead Weed. So when I was out in San Francisco, just as in St. Louis, like there's a lot of people always asking you for money. In San Francisco, I don't know why, especially the first time I went, everyone kept on coming up to me asking me if I needed to smoke pot. And almost like it was a public service, like, dude, do you need to smoke? Are you cool? I guess I had a serious look on my face, which is kind of my default. But this was ultimately the culmination of that, and it's called That Deadhead Weed. Grateful Dead Bear takes off head to say that Jerry Garcia can kiss his ass. Asks me if I want to get high. He's the fifth person to ask today. Best shit I ever smoked. That was a shorter one. There's going to be another shorter one, and one of the best compliments I ever got about this poem is that someone said that it should not be possible to write anything about the Star Wars Special Edition with any amount of pathos, but somehow I did it. So I chalk that into my ego box whenever I need to feel better about myself. And this poem is called Special Edition. I used to be super critical of the Star Wars special editions and any other additional changes George Lucas made to a trilogy that was, in my mind, perfect. Then one day, I sent a poem out for publication, and 5 seconds later, I saw how I could improve it. I'm not as critical anymore. So, that was that one. And before I go on to the next one, this poem was first published in something that just came out from Newington Blue Press. It's a tribute to Charles Bukowski for his 100th birthday. There's actually 2 volumes of that, and there are so many great poets in this book. Lynette Phoenix, John Dorsey, Brian Rillman, on and on. Like, so many great poets are here, and I'm proud to share the space with them. And I'm gonna read a poem that's in this book and also in Love Letters. An earlier draft of this poem is actually in the Buke 100 zine. But this one is actually, this is my side of the story of meeting Kevin Ridgeway, and it's called Whitman's Wild Great Grandchildren. I met my friend in person for the first time at the cemetery gates, the only friend I seem to have in all of Los Angeles. And we walked up the hill to pay our respects to a man who we both knew helped us both to be more honest in a way society doesn't like. But society has never thought much of me to begin with, so fuck it. Meeting this brother in arms of the written word felt like meeting a reflection, knowing of past agonies that had walked parallel roads. We paid our respects to Hank, shared the crazy stories that made us who we were, and gave each other space so we could each have a private moment with a gravestone. Just as every honest writer is a child of Woody Guthrie, blood relation be damned. Every honest poet is descended from Bukowski, and thus they are descended from Walt Whitman. They say that even in the most dysfunctional family, there is love. Well, there is no family more loving or dysfunctional than a family of poets. And there's a second poem that I took away from that, which I will be reading. I'm a huge fan of the band, the 80s punk band, the Minutemen, which for anyone who doesn't know who they are, definitely check them out. Start with the, well, I guess it's on vinyl, it's a triple album called Double Nickels on the Dime. But the unfortunate thing with the singer D Boone, he unfortunately passed away in like a road accident at the age of 27. So he's unfortunately a member of that famous club. But this is a poem called History Lesson 3, which is a takeoff of a song of theirs called History Lesson 2. Mike Watt still lives. His soulmate and best friend does not, subverting a genre with no rules that can always be so regimented. Standing in their declaration, along with drummer George of We Jam Econo. Another road accident to the state troopers, another member of the 27 Club to the fans, a lifetime spent filling a hole where a heart used to be for Mike and George. Though they do not let the death of their friend define them, in doing so, they honor their friend's memory. Though they found some success after their friend was gone, there was not that same magic. Even Ed from Ohio, who would travel miles to tell you that you can't beat that something extra of those three boys from San Pedro. This next one is something that I've been reading a lot recently in interviews I've been giving and such. As I said, last August would have been the centennial of the great poet Charles Bukowski. And I decided to write something as a little bit of a tribute to him because so many people want to focus on the dirty old man stereotype, but anyone who reads his work knows that he's much more than that. And so I wrote this, and it's entitled No Bluebirds. Something tells me you would have hated your 100th birthday. No bars, no poems being lived. Only idiots and pretentious pricks like me thinking your thoughts for you an idol I never met. I know I wouldn't want to get a drink with you if you were still alive, because there'd be too many others lined up to do so, including some who would feel entitled to that bragging right. I'm cautious to say your name out loud, because saying it always attracts every asshole who never bothered to create, but who loves to think they could create. And who waste the next 10 minutes of anyone's life talking about a novel they'll never write, a film they'll never make, who think the only way to live up to your reputation is to drink and fuck as much as possible. They never get it right, because they never talk about the bluebird in their heart or about the beauty of another's fire. Thank you. So, as anyone who knows me knows, I politically I drift to the left side of things. Although my left is your right, so maybe that's not a good thing for me to sort of say to you know. But I politically shift very much to the left, and I have always been intrigued by the fact that when it comes right down to it, a lot of things really don't change in history. And I've often thought about my relatives in the past and what they would think about everything that's going on in the world. And so I wrote this, and it's entitled Any Other Name. In the 40s, I would have been called a red, or commie if they wanted to be confrontational, with the basis of that being nothing more than my being a writer, for wearing glasses, and daring to think outside a nondescript box. In the 60s, they would have called me a hippie, despite my being over 30 and the fact that I'm so OCD that every time I try to grow a beard or have longer hair, it just gets annoying. Some would have called me unpatriotic because I wouldn't have believed in a political pissing contest that gave so much of a generation PTSD. In the 80s, they would have called me a liberal, as though that's supposed to be an insult, for pointing out how deregulation was going to be the downfall of this country, and for pointing out that Reaganomics was and is a crock of shit. Nowadays, certain people in the community want to call me Antifa, as though that's supposed to be an insult. That I'm some left-wing nut who wants to burn the whole system down because I don't piss, bleed, or come red, white, and blue every second of my life. And they base that claim on nothing more than my being a writer, for wearing glasses, and daring to think outside a nondescript box. This will be the last political piece I read. I'm so glad we don't have to worry about that shit as much. So this I wrote when I was in Pennsylvania on tour, and I was driving with my good friend Jason Baldinger, who's a hell of a poet, and we actually went on tour with Sarah Mingus towards the end of the tour, who I believe is in the crowd this evening. And this piece is entitled "Fool's Gold." Take a drink. I never really understood until I went out on the road how he did it. I guess I was too far removed, even as a member of the working poor, so that I could see through the bullshit smile and con man charisma. But now I get it. I knew he lied through his teeth, but to see the broken spirits of those who lived in Rust Belt states, who were told those few precious lies they wanted to hear for so long, it's going to be just like it was. Those factories that moved away years ago that everyone said are never coming back. Guess what? They're coming back, along with your self-respect and your ability to earn a living. To see all of those people who still hold on to that all-American unreal hope against the odds, I now see all the blind spots he was able to slither his way past, especially when the other candidate didn't even bother to give those people the time of day. I saw him make those promises on TV, but I guess since my livelihood never depended on a factory belt, I never understood how precious those words could be to some. So now, 3 years later, like tired old miners after a gold rush, those who believe the lies are only left with fool's gold, digging their heels in to believe that it's the real thing. Because everybody wants to live a lie, but nobody wants to be the fool. I've only got a few more. This next one is actually from the book I released a year ago, Brian Epstein Died for You. And I was never able to properly promote that book because like literally 3 weeks after this book came out, the pandemic hit full wide. And this poem is called California Feeling. Sunset Boulevard hopefuls all want discovery. Let the ocean wash them all away. Smoke splits blue sky as Gatsby eyes look down. A million different kinds of music blend together as a million different languages laugh with each other. Books pass like peace pipes to sidewalk squatters. Don't you understand? We found the main nerve. Sundresses in winter dance to what remains of free love. Puppers only want to cuddle because no one understands unconditional love like dogs. Falling for flapper hat wearing hipster pixie dream girls that seem to be everywhere. Typing away on Apple computers, drinking tea whilst I drink a mocha I could swear is just heated chocolate milk. The restless and derivative sell themselves and the great American script in elevators to anybody wearing a blazer with a decent haircut. Sunshine states don't know what to do with themselves when the sun goes down. Tired tears prep second wind, daily grind soundtracks in mono like a one-track mind. California vibrations grow the world. Drink yourself drunk at Vesuvio and stumble down Jack Kerouac way. Empathic hearts take blame and kiss with kindness all the same. Without love, the world is just another place. And I think I'm actually going to cut to, I'm only going to do 2 more things, and I'm going to close out the evening. So we are promoting my book, Love Letters from the Underground, but I am proud to announce that I have another book coming out later this year entitled Tales from the Riverbank, which is going to be my first collection of prose. And I'm going to read a short story that's from that collection that was already put out on Angel Share. I think it's issue 2. And this short story is called It's 3 a.m. Do You Know Where You Are? The whole damn world is burning, he said as the bartender poured him another drink. And I say, fuck it. Little did he know that apocalyptic rants or drunken pinings for good old days were the worst things to hear at a bar at almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Little did he know that such things turned people away. This was especially true of Mia Sanders, the 26-year-old who, by chance, was sitting next to him to get one last beer and cursing her luck in the process. Here it comes, she thought. Another self-indulgent, whiskey-soaked diatribe about how fucking great everything was in the past. Another round of bullshit about how people my age will just never know. How all us poor souls born too late to see whatever band at whatever forgotten venue or do the good drugs like they had in whatever decade people grew up in, well, we all just missed out on practically everything worth living for. And the worst part was she agreed. Here we are, she thought, at the edge of the world, the very edge of civilization, and we are so desperate to feel something, anything, that we keep falling through the beds of a million well-known strangers and straight to the end of the world. Mia looked over at the man sitting next to her. She had a feeling that he was once someone full of life, but had resigned himself all too quickly the second life had decided to push back. Someone who was now just another person staring blankly across the bar, wishing they were as strong as the whiskey they drank. She kept giving the man next to her the occasional glance as a polite gesture as he rambled on about the end of the world and having to go to hospitals and about how some invisible system is trying to screw everybody over. She kept her mouth shut to keep from spending any more time with them than she had to, even when she really wanted to make a counterpoint to something her brain thought was pure bullshit. Everybody always thinks it's the end of the world when they think things suck, she thought. They don't ever stop to think that sometimes things are just bad. But those good times, like the bad, are always passing away. She looked around the bar, leaving the men next to her as soon as she could, as soon as he stopped talking, so she could look for her friend Krista, who was the reason she was out drinking to begin with. Krista was the type of person who'd start her morning with a bottle of whiskey before anything else. A sensitive and destructive soul whose only goal in life was validation from others, no matter the cost. The two of them had started drinking earlier that night at Mia's place. They had started with a bottle of wine before moving to shots of tequila. Before Krista decided on just chugging the bottle, while Mia continued to pace herself. Once Krista suggested they do shots of Jaeger, Mia thought, well, let's go out instead. She had never really liked drinking all that much, but only because for Mia, she'd get too primal too fast and then freak out as the drunken faces that surrounded her became caricatures. As the bartender announced last call, Mia went out into the muggy 2:45 a.m. summer heat with her can of beer, stomping her way out while still trying to hang on to the poise and grace she had been taught at an early age to always maintain. She found Krista talking to people neither of them knew out on the patio with a puddle of vomit next to the chair that Krista was sitting in. You all right? Mia asked Krista, trying to regain her composure. Yeah, I'm fine, said Krista. Over her shoulder, Mia could hear a table full of people getting louder over some personal drama, with someone proclaiming louder and louder that someone else was full of shit, as though the loudness of the claim would make it undoubtedly true. The only thing that person was accomplishing, though, was getting side glances from anyone within earshot. You should, Krista began, tugging at Mia's arm. You should text some people, see if they want to hang out. What? You should text them, Krista said, half fading out. Let's hang out with Mark and Sam. They're probably out drinking. I'm not texting anyone this late, said Mia. It's not that late. Mia pulled out her phone to show Krista the time, and Krista laughed, and then looked for something else to hold her attention before beginning to talk to the strangers at the table about people she and Mia once knew, dated, or friends they could call up to keep the night going. The strangers humored her for 12 to 20 seconds before her annoyance reached a level of them ignoring her and her drunken state taking longer to realize what was happening. It took the bar closing at 3 a.m. to get Krista out of there so Mia could order a car that would take the two of them back to Mia's place, where Krista was staying while she was in town. As Krista fell asleep on the couch, Mia put a trash can near Krista's head in case she had to puke again later on in the night. Mia sat at the kitchen table, drinking some water before she went to bed, staring at the clock an aunt had given her that was always 5 minutes too fast. She could hear her boyfriend quietly snoring in their bedroom as Krista was fast asleep in the living room. As the ticks of the clock rang out, she began to contemplate on anything her mind wanted to think about. Lone moments can be a real bitch, Mia thought. A lot of times people don't feel anything, which scares them because we're all supposed to feel something. Fuck it. It's too late to freak out about anything. Hell, maybe it is the end of the world. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there. And I will close out on a poem that is actually apropos because I'm actually a qualified, I can perform weddings, bar mitzvahs, the whole spiel. And I performed my first wedding during the pandemic, with a mask, everything was safe. And it kind of works out that this is my final one because I love to close on this one. And it's a super short one. And it's called Quick Thought number 4,097. I'll just go ahead and say it. White people scare me when Sweet Caroline comes on. Thank you. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you to everyone who was reading. Thank you, Kara, for hosting the event. Guys, thank you so much. Good night.
Hold on. Okay, got my video back. I just gotta put myself. What the heck? What's going on here? There it is. Okay. I am going to invite everybody back to say their goodbyes.
That will prove to be a mistake.
And
I'm so fucking tired. Who else is fucking tired?
I feel like invigorated, and this is the best Zoom reading I've been a part of. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, really.
I don't think, in a good way, I don't think I've ever laughed. Your first poem, I don't think I've ever laughed that much in my fucking life.
That's what sucks about this format is like I love like I mean we all miss like the crowd and like situation, right, like with COVID, but like God, like that poem in particular is another one that has been written since after